Hello and welcome to another D&D Stories. I am your host, TheWriter. This is a show where I sit here and regale you with all the times of remember when for tabletop games. So, last time when we left off, Spoony found out that the next portion of the archdemon was at the Museum of Music and Musical Achievements. So our party got together after doing all of their downtime projects, all their other things like that, and between sessions, our utility wizard decided to pool his money with a couple other party members and buy a Rod of Wonder. And if you don't know what a Rod of Wonder is, it's basically like a roulette wheel in a staff. And it does 100 things, and whenever you point it at somebody or something and you use one of the charges, you roll on a percentile and whatever it matches up to happens. It could be anything from summoning an elephant to growing grass on the ground to turning whoever you're pointing at to stone. It does 100 things. And I go, why'd you buy that? And he goes, the next time, our dwarven defender decides to mess with me, I'll just point the Rod of Wonder at him and let fate decide what'll happen for his PvP nonsense. And I go, you spent however much a Rod of Wonder costs, I don't even know, just to mess with another party member. And he goes, yeah, if he's gonna keep being a dick, then yeah, he's got the chance to turn to stone, the chance to be turned pink, the chance to be shrunken to the size of a mouse, and I go, yeah, okay, I get it. The next time he messes with you, you're going to spin the roulette wheel and point the Rod of Wonder and see what happens. And he goes, yeah, pretty much. And so, in character, Spoony and his 5 compatriots gather around at a table at the Full Health Tavern, and Spoony tells them what the barmaid says about the musical museum and achievements building. And he goes, why don't we go there and check it out? And they go, why? And he goes, well, they could have enchanted instruments there, and it's a museum. It is a place of culture and music. And they go, you're reeling for a stronger musical instrument, aren't you? And I go, yeah, but you never know what we'll find there. We don't exactly have any other leads for any of the archdemon pieces, so maybe something will fall into our laps. You never know. And our wizard goes, well, I could do I could prepare a bunch of detect magics, and if any fell magic or demon magic pops up, I'll be able to identify it and zero in on it. So if it's hidden there for whatever reason, then I'll be able to detect it, no problem. And they go, well, we could use a day off. We did just go into the nastiest part of town and raid a drug house and do all that stuff. So sure, a museum tour doesn't sound too bad. Just keep your sticky fingers to yourself, Spoony. And I go, okay, I'll try. And by now, the vibe of Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny is kind of incensed over all of us, and we kind of get it. We know there's going to be a demon's tooth there as a guitar pick. And we start by just casing the joint almost, and it's a museum. You can just walk in, and they have brochures and tour guides, and it has open hours. Oh, we were just trying to be sneaky about it. It's a public building. We could have just walked in and looked at stuff, but we were trying to be clever, I guess, and we signed up for a tour, just the 6 of us. And while we were doing the tour, this is the lute of so and so, the bard. This is the conductor's baton of the conductor who wrote this great symphony. Here's his portrait on the wall and stuff like that. Spoony and the wizard, I think his name was Neil, now that I think about it. It's been so long. Spoony and Neil, the wizard, separate from the group because it's the 4 party members and a bunch of other people, and then us 2. So we go off to one side. Like, we're going to try and see if any of this stuff is magical, because you never know. Cough, cough. And sure enough, when we go into like the hall of string instruments and lutes and banjos and all different things, we find like a display case with like 100 different kinds of guitar picks and shapes and sizes and stuff. And if you know anybody who's even slightly musically inclined, you know that guitar pick shapes, sizes, bendability, what material they're made of, they all produce completely different sounds to people that know what to listen for. And, you know, Neil and I kind of, we lean forward and we look like, do any of these look like teeth? And the DM goes, well, not really. They're all triangular, so I guess by a stretch they could look like teeth, but none of them especially stand out to you as being like a demon's tooth. And I go, and Neil goes, and they're all under glass, so we can't examine them. And I go, Neil, I'll watch the door. You know, you use detect magic. You know, see if any of these are actually magical. And Spoony like watches the door, makes sure the next tour isn't about to go by, and Neil's like, detect magic, ha! And a couple of them are magical, but most of them are like, they stay clean forever, they stay sharp forever, they don't break no matter how hard they're strummed with. But one of them, in the far corner, we find there's not 100 guitar picks, there's 101, because while the 100 of them are mounted on like little pegs, there's one that's just laying flat in the bottom of the display, and it's old and green and grungy looking, and Neil looks at it and he's like, what does that feel like in the magic spectrum? And the DM goes, evil. And he goes, it's just like the demon's horn that you saw earlier. It gives off that same vibe, that same magical footprint. And you know, Neil's like, I found it. Okay, how do I get into this glass display? Because you know, if there's magical stuff here, there's bound to be magical security systems. And we're like, how are we going to get into this? And Neil looks over at Spoony and goes, you know, Spoony, can you use your voice to like break the glass? And I go, well, it wouldn't be much different than like hitting it with a club. And he goes, yeah, but you can do it to like just a section. And I go, no, I can't. That's not how sound works. And he goes, well, you could break the glass and not destroy the display. How about that? It's better than hitting it with a stick. And I go, yeah. And if you've ever seen the Tenacious D song Master Exploder, you know, the initial like bars, oh, and it goes up until the mic catches fire. Spoony pulls one of those and shatters the entire display, and Neil like grabs the guitar pick and like shoves it into his robes, into his pockets. He goes, we got it. And you know, of course, as soon as this happened, you know, guards jump around the corner because, you know, this is a museum full of expensive stuff, so there's guards on every corner. Not one in the Hall of Strings, apparently, but they were on the corner, so that took them all 5 seconds to get there. And they're like, hey, you, what are you doing? And I go, I was singing bars, you know, you gotta practice your bars. And he goes, not in a museum, not to break the glass. And they grab both of us by our robes and slam us up against the walls. And I go, I didn't steal anything. And I go, you know, look, it was just an accident. And the TM's like, roll your bluff. And I roll it, and Neil rolls his, and our combined is just enough to get over this this guard's disbelief. And I go, look, you know, that display there that we accidentally broke was 100 guitar picks, right? There's no guitar picks missing. And they turn around and they count the guitar picks, and they're like, don't fucking move. You know, 88, 89, 90, 91. And they count 100 guitar picks, and the one we had was not mounted, so it looks like there's nothing missing. And they go, all right, well, fork over the 180 gold to fix the glass display, Mr. Bagpipe Throat, or we're taking you in. And I'm like, okay, here. I'm sorry. Here's an extra 20 gold to fix the plaque and everything. I'm very sorry for breaking this illustrious museum. Like, stop laying it on so thick. Get out of here. And so Neil and Spoony run for it. And we rejoined the tour group. It's like, we got it. Let's get out of here. We got it. Let's get out of here. And we flee out of a side door. So it was a little easier than I thought it would be. But then we started running into trouble because we exited out an alleyway, and all the alleyways in this town are bad, whether they're on the good side of town or not. And we run into a couple of homeless people, and there's a guy in black armor, like spikes, shoulder pads, and like a closed-faced helm with like a little slit for eyes, and like leathers with double swords and stuff. And I was like, oh crap, who's this? And he's like, I detected you moving the demon's tooth, and Edmund will not have this. Have at you, ah! And he pulls out like these twin syringes, and the 6 of us are like, ha, there's only one of you, and there's only 2 syringes, and there's 6 of us. Who are you kidding? And, Power Rangers pose, ha! And we're like, roll initiative. And he's like, ah! And he turns the syringes around and jabs both of the homeless people next to him and injects them with the taint, the black taint that turns people into monsters. And they go, oh! And they start flobber worming out, and they turn into these 3-story worm creatures with teeth on one end that are just dripping with black muck and goo, and they extend out into the street and back and through all the garbage and filth that just flings it everywhere, and it's sticky, nasty, gross, stinking, just all at once. Like, I don't even remember the name of the monster he used. It was some kind of rudimentary like demon template. But he added like a poison to the touch and things like that. And he goes, these will deal with you. And he takes off. And it was like, was that one of Edmund's like lieutenants? The man in black armor. So Lieutenant Black is, I think, what we ended up calling him, just because we didn't have a name for him. Edmund's Lieutenant Black. And so this fight breaks out in the alleyway, and Spoony's like slowly backing up, and he's like, Neil, give me the demon's tooth. You're going to charge into battle. And Neil hands it over, and I immediately grin, and I was like, you just handed me, like, I don't even know. It's a guitar pick, and I've got to loot. Like, I've got to try it before we put it in the vault. And I was like, I used the demon's tooth as a guitar pick. And the DM goes, well, it's definitely magical, and it is, the way you're using it, it's a guitar pick, so give yourself plus 10 to your performance. And I was like, plus 10? Oh my god. And I throw it, and I give everybody the plus 2 to, like, their attack and damage or whatever it is. And it's like, you play less, what was it? You play Ride the Dragon while they're fighting these giant monster worm things. And the fight goes about as badly as you might expect, in an enclosed space. These things can spit acid. They're poisonous to the touch. They can bite people, wrap people up. There's fireballs and lightning and spitting acid goo going back and forth. It's chaos in a very small space. It's not good for us. So, robes get disintegrated. I think Jason lost his shield entirely just because he was up there tanking, and he took an acid spray full in the face, and our DM's like, well, you can lose your shield entirely or take like 3d8 plus 10 acid damage. He's like, I'll lose the shield, thank you. And they fight, and guards start coming in, and like, what is this monstrosity doing on the black monster of the black taint? And they start helping, and so by then Lieutenant Black is long gone, and we slay the beasts, and we get, XP, and we get a little bit of money, thank you for helping keep the city a safe place. You didn't have to jump in and start fighting these monsters. And we're like, yeah, we didn't have to do that. So we get a bit of money for our trouble, and we have the demon's tooth. And by then we've got the medieval equivalent of guys coming in with like hazmat suits, and they're like slicing these giant worms that used to be people up into slices, and like tying it in bags and putting them in like toxic bags of holding, and they're going to go burn those later and stuff. They have to get rid of it entirely or it's just going to spread. So it becomes like a quarantine zone, and they examine us to make sure we didn't get any in our eyes, in our mouths, anything like that. And then they let us go, because we've got Dylan, the paladin, who can, cure disease, cure light wounds, cure medium wounds, to make sure we don't have anything that's going to turn us into a monster anytime soon. I mean, the syringes were like instantaneous, so even like getting a scratch, it could take a few days, but we checked out okay. And so we got the demon's tooth. They're like, okay, we're going to take it, straight to the vault and have it put away. And I'm like, wait, guys. And they go, what? And I go, it's a +10 guitar pick. And then they go, Spoony, I know, it's very tempting, and you're especially talented for that kind of stuff, but it's a piece of an archdemon. We can't just have it out in the world. What if somebody steals it from you, or it comes into contact with the other 4 pieces? And I go, guys, they can only summon the archdemon if they've got all 5 pieces, right? And they go, yeah. And I go, well, we've already locked up, the demon's horn, so they can't. Even if they stole it from me, they can't do it. Please, just give me one night. Let me do one show with the pick of destiny, with the demon's tooth, +10 guitar pick, and then we'll put it in the vault, I promise. And they're like, I was like, think of all the money I could get. I'll split the money with you guys. It's going to be astronomical. And, because by then I've spent more money on like cufflinks that add to perform, and flashy boots that add to perform, and a belt buckle that sparkles and adds to perform. Like, I'm throwing everything into Spoony breaking the stratosphere with his perform checks. And I was like, just imagine that extra +10, what it's going to do at the Full Health Tavern. Imagine all the gold we're going to rake in from this. And, the group takes a vote. And it's 3, 4, and 2 against. So I get to keep the pick of destiny for one night, for one show. And I was like, yes! With all the money we've gathered up anyway, I could just go buy a +10 pick afterwards and put the demon's tooth away, and that way it'll even out and we won't have to worry about it. And they were like, all right, go on, have your fun. So we break for a while, and again, I'm checking my notes, sorry. Again, Jason, our dwarven defender, has to go out looking for leads for his wife, and the DM took notice of like all the people he was talking to, like not being stealthy about it, not like going to informed sources, just asking people on the street, showing them a picture. Have you seen this woman? Have you seen this woman? And the DM decided to take advantage of this, because now Edmund's Lieutenant Black, and Edmund himself by now is aware of our presence and the fact that we know about the pieces of the archdemon. So Edmund decided to step in at this point, because like a couple of days goes by. Spoony's preparing for this big show, and Rhino is off, mucking out the stalls again. They're doing, the wizard and the sorcerer doing their enchanting, and of course Jason spends all his time looking for his wife. And so Lieutenant Black has run to Edmund by this point and told him about us, because we went into the museum and we only took one thing, and that was the one thing that he had his eyes on. So Edmund decides to take steps to get rid of us one by one. So who's first on the list but our dwarven defender, who is out looking for his wife? While he is grilling some fellow dwarves who are got, like I said, got bandoliers of knives across their chest while he's out grilling some of these people after buying a new shield, of course. Have you seen this woman? Have you seen this woman? Finally, one of them has. And everybody at the table goes, really? He actually found a lead after all these sessions of all of us doing all this stuff? And he goes, yes, it turns out that that Jason's wife, I think her name was like Cassandra or something like that. Jason's wife, Cassandra, is being held in jail at such and such location. It's like a high security sort of place where they send like really bad criminals or really people that have done horrible things. Apparently she's being held there on a Trump charge. And Jason's like, I've got to go spring her. Who's with me? And the table goes silent. And he's like, what? You're not going to help me? And the wizard's like, you tried to kill me twice. And Spoony's like, you've roughhoused with me enough times. And Rhino's like, no. And just like, out of the five of us, not one of us liked him enough to go help spring his wife. And we started like kind of poking at him a little bit, like, why is she in that jail? They wouldn't throw her in there for no reason. He said it was a Trump charge. How do you know it's a Trump charge? Bah, I'll go do it by myself. So Jason, our dwarven defender, decides to go solo. He's got to go break his wife out of this jail. And, he grills the guy again. Are you sure this was her? It's like the red hair with this kind of beads and this is what she's shaped like, and this is what she sounds like, and she's got a little nick scar on her neck, and he describes all these extra things. He's like, yeah, this is exactly what she looks like. She's been in there for months. And probably waiting for somebody to go spring her. Ha 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 ha. Off to one side. But this is like Jason's personal storyline moving forward, so he's got to jump on it. And so he breaks in, like in the dead of night. And I don't know how he stealthed through this. I don't remember like what roles the DM made him do. But he breaks this woman out and like chops the manacles off and like hauls her out like on his back because she was like chained up on the wall. And he's like, I've freed Cassandra, and they're like out in the alleyway, and they're embracing, and the loving music swells. He's like, he finally found his wife, yay! And you get X amount of XP for breaking in and not killing any guards, for not raising the alarm, for bringing her out unharmed, for moving your personal storyline forward. He got like almost a whole extra level worth of XP for like doing this stealth mission on his own, while the rest of the party were like off doing their own things. And he brings her back to like the Full Health Tavern, and he's like their hands like all over each other the whole time because they've been separated for months. And the DM's like, well, she's certainly grouchy from being held in that dungeon for so long, and she doesn't want to talk about what got her landed in there or who put her there, but she's just glad to be back in your arms, Jason. And the two of you head up into one of the upper rooms to consummate your reunion and all that good stuff. And Jason's like, yes, hairy dwarf sex, yes. So while Spoony is like tuning his lute and stuff like that, he can hear the headboard bash, bash, bash against the wall all freaking night. And the wizard Neil is sitting next to him like, don't look at me, that's the way it is around you all the time. And I was like, ah. And the night goes through and well into the dawn, and there's not a lot of sleep for any people that are next door to the happy couple. So the next morning rolls around, and the DM goes, Jason, you're not feeling so good the next morning. And he goes, what? What happened? And he goes, you almost feel like your muscles have atrophied or something. You can see like the veins in your arms that you usually can't see in your eyes are bloodshot, and you've got bags under your eyes, like you're just exhausted. And he said, well, yeah, I was up all night banging my wife. And he goes, no, not that sort of exhausted. I mean like almost like a plague-ridden exhausted, a sort of weakness has come over you, like you've been set back to an earlier point in your adventures. And he goes, did I lose a level? And he goes, yes, you did. And he goes, how did that happen? And his wife sits up in the bed, and the velvet curtains kind of drop and cast a shadow onto the wall to see that she has enormous bat wings and horns. And he goes, Succubus! No! And it's not his wife at all. Edmund and Lieutenant Black planted a succubus to tempt Jason in to rescuing her, banging her, and then draining all of his levels out. So the one night was enough for one level, and she pounces on him to like try and just like rip his soul out through his mouth or something. And she's just like got him by the throat, and his like spirit is coming up out of his mouth. And he's like, no, don't do it. And who should be happening to pass but our sorceress. Sorry. And she breaks in and sees what's happening. She's like, Succubus, arcane blast or lightning bolt or whatever she used. Blast the succubus against the wall. And if you remember, succubi are only like, I think, 3rd level creatures, so they're not especially strong until after they've slept with you. So she's supercharged at this point. So instant cat fight breaks out because the succubus like flaps its wings and dashes onto our sorcerers, and they go out a fucking second story window into the alley below, and they're like, oh damn. And the whole party comes running because they're all in rooms next to each other, like, the sorceress has gone out the window, we have to go help. And Jason's like laying flat on the ground, pale as a sheet, like half of his soul is gone. And like he's butt naked and nobody wants to touch him. And so we all kind of boil out into the alleyway and fight this succubus that's been supercharged by a dwarven defender's might. And like she can deck somebody for 2d10 damage and just like knock your lights out. And like Spoony's trying to give everybody the +2, the +3. And finally, I think it was Neil, the wizard, that got a hold of her by like the face and like used acid touch to like collapse her skull between his hands. And it was like the nastiest Mortal Kombat fatality move you've ever seen. Crushes her skull with acid touch and like shoves her into the garbage and refuge. And they were like, oh God, Spoony, don't you worry about stuff like that all the time? And I go, no, I do now. So we all get the XPs for the succubus that was posing as Cassandra, wife of Jason. And more than usual, again, because she had slept with him, so she got all of his sexual energy and all of his strength by draining a level out of him. So she was quite a bit stronger than normal. And we all rush back to see if Jason's still alive. And we kind of like, we gather around him in a circle and we're like, is he still there? And you like poke him with a stick. I don't want to touch him. He's naked. And I think he made like a fortitude save or whatever it was to sit up and not be like in a coma. He's like, you're okay, Jason, but you've lost a level permanently. The succubus was sent to assassinate you after a long night of sexing, but you managed to last so long that even having drained all of your sexual energy away, she still needed to rest a bit before she could just come up and crush your neck. So, your stamina was the only thing that saved you, Mr. Dwarf. And Jason's like, ha! And points at Spoony. I was like, hey, I had 2 barmaids. You got nothing on me. And our sorceress rolls her eyes because this has just become like a cock measuring contest by now. and we're like, Jason, put some pants on. We've gotta go deliver the demon's tooth after Spoony's concert. And like Jason, like, again, he was not a happy person. He was happy to PvP with people and to start arguments and stuff. He was like, that could have been Cassandra. That should have been Cassandra. That's not fair. Edmund and Lieutenant Black planted that monster to assassinate me. And he basically goes off to sulk because he was so close and he had that hope. And it turned out to be this sex demon. And I was like, that really should have been me. That should have been Spoony. Because, like, the next thing that Edmund and Lieutenant Black are going to send is, like, a pair of succubi to come after Spoony because he's the hornball of the group. So I'm going to have to be careful with my conquests from now on. But, Jason goes off to sulk, basically like a few blocks away. He finds another tavern. He goes like off on his grumpy way, and everybody else is kind of helping gather up, set the stage, put up new lights, new like firefly lights and stuff for Spoony's concert that's about to happen. And we go, okay, we've got firefly lights and a raised stage and everything. And we're gonna have Spoony's concert tonight with the pick of destiny, the demon tooth. And he goes, and the DM goes, okay, so Spoony, you guys spent time, advertising, and you've done a couple of concerts here before with a room full of people. You decide to move it outside onto the porch so that people in the street can stop and there'll be extra room. So you've got like a little raised platform and like an acoustic cone behind you to help project the music further. And I go, yes. And there's firefly lamps and like a little bit of flash powder on the stage for him to like scritch his boots on to make it like pop and flare. And all the little tricks for like a rock and roll sort of concert, and that's kind of the tone that this campaign is setting anyway. And he goes, whenever you're ready, roll for it. And I was like, okay, it's like all my stuff is like plus 17 to perform, and then plus the pick of destiny is 27 to perform, and it's like whatever I roll plus 27, and I roll it 20, and I was like 47, and he's like exploding criticals, roll it again, another 10, and I was like, oh my god. So it goes all the way up to I forgot what I just said, 37, 47. Anyway, super freaking high, enough to get a handful of D6s worth of gold, and people are stopping. They're dancing. There's lights and different people screaming and throwing articles of clothing. And my party is like interspersed between the crowd, watching for Lieutenant Black, watching for Edmund, because wouldn't it be interesting if somebody came with like a blow dart to kill Spoony on stage because there's nothing to protect him up there. So Master Exploder gets played up on Spoony's stage. And if you remember, I told you when a bard breaks 30 on a perform check, it becomes like a supersonic, like Cyro rip across the forms of reality and time and space. And it can attract the attention of elementals, demons, angels, gods. So once I broke 30, 40, 50 doing this concert, he had me roll several times just to see what would happen. And he goes, okay, coming down from on high, from the divine level of existence, come two women in white robes with bronze skin and golden hair and golden eyes that disperse themselves into the crowd, and they have these huge wings on their back. And I go, angels? And he goes, yes, a pair of angels have come down from heaven to participate in Spoony's concert. And I was like, yes, angels. That could have just as easily been like a rock elemental or something bad, but he was, or a demon, but he was rolling on this massive chart of things. Like, he knew I was going to start breaking 30 soon, so he made like a big chart of things that could show up at Spoony's performances, and I rolled out for, I think, 1d4 angels showed up to this concert, and I was like, yes, angels, I have divine accompaniment, or divine company for Spoony's big hit day. And the crowd gets bigger and bigger. There's wild partying going on, drinking and dancing and jumping up and down just from this one bard, breaking 30, 40, 50 with the pick of destiny, and plus 17 worth of stuff, plus rolling a 20, plus this, plus that. And it gets more outrageous later. But for now, we had, a crowd of like 200 people just standing in the street, plus 2 angels, plus my party, plus, the guy running the tavern, shoos all the bar wenches out into the crowd to sell alcohol, to sell food to people. He's making all kinds of money. Spoony's getting 10% of this for doing his own concert there. So the money comes rolling in from all these people just like throwing stuff up on the stage. There's flowers and coins, gold, silver, copper, all the money they're making from selling food and alcohol. It's just rolling in from this big concert. And then a clap of thunder sounds, and the dark clouds gather, blotting out the sun. And who should descend from on high but Moradin, the god of dwarves? And I go, Moradin? And the DM goes, yes, your bardic performance of rock and roll doing Master Exploder from Tenacious D has drawn the attention of Moradin, the god of dwarves. And I go, really? Awesome. And it's like, Spoony, I have heard your godlike rock, and I'm here to rock off with you. And he like reaches into like a pocket dimension and pulls out like a double-headed axe that's been converted into a double-headed axe, a guitar. And so Spoony and Moradin, the god of dwarves, rock out on this stage, and more people come in and more money rolls in. And it just kind of goes on and on and on, well into the night. Less talk, more rock, starts playing. And who should show up after that but another god? Another god noticed that Moradin has come down into the physical realm, and it's the god of tricksters. Now, I don't know, D&D's pantheon is complicated. There are several gods that have trickster as a domain. So it could be Loki, it could be Bakab, it could be one of like 6 gods. So I'm just going to say trickster. Because I think deities and demigods covers like 6 pantheons. So it could have been Loki, it could have been, like I said, it could have been Loki, it could have been Bakab, could have been like 6 different people. But the DM goes, the god of tricksters comes down and challenges Moradin to a rock-off. And everybody's like, what? It's like, Spoony, what have you wrought? We are putting that pick away. You're not allowed to start rock-offs with gods in the middle of the damn street. So the amount of awesome is piling too high. So we've Spoony kind of like siddles to one side so that Moradin and the god of tricksters can trade insults, and then the trickster god pulls out like his long neck guitar, and they have a rock off between themselves. And Jason, like I said, who has been off sulking for a while because of the whole Succubus incident, goes, Moradin, the god of dwarves, I should go ask him where my wife is. He's God. He should know. And the DM goes, well, you were pretty far away, but the decibels are high enough. You can certainly hear Ride the Dragon being played between these two dueling musicians, and you know that kind of speed and that kind of volume is too high, even for your friend Spoony. So something divine has landed at the Full Health Tavern, and you rush all the way back, and any dwarf alive can recognize Moradin, the creator, the smither of worlds, etc., etc. And I've already got a bad feeling, because this feels, I don't know, it feels too convenient, like a god coming down like that, and I'm wondering if this is another one of Edmund's tricks. But Neil the wizard looks them over and goes, yeah, they're gods. They have the divine spark. They are all magics. They're not just they're not fey. They're not evil. They're not any one category. They're the real deal. And I go, wow. I've still got a bad feeling, but wow. So Jason runs through the crowd and jumps up onto the stage. He's like, Moradin, god of dwarves, yeah! And Moradin, who has finished his rock off with the god of tricksters and won, because he's a higher level god. And he goes, Jason, dwarven defender. And he kind of looks Jason over for a second, and then he stops. And he starts to scowl a little bit. And he goes, what have you become, Jason? And he goes, what do you mean? And he goes, you plot against those you call friends? And he goes, what? And everybody at the table goes, what? And he goes, you've been hiring cutthroats this past fortnight to assassinate Neil the wizard. And Neil looks over and goes, really? And the DM goes, yeah, he asked me between games to hire an assassin to kill you. So you'll have to worry about that later. But Moradin has seen into his heart to warn you about this. And on top of that, Jason, when you slept with the succubus that Edmund and Lieutenant Black sent towards you, you acquired a little extra something, sticking your dick in evil. And he goes, what's that? And he goes, the black taint. And he goes, what? No, that cannot be. It's not an STD. And he goes, it basically is. You stuck your dick in a demon. And all the demons around here, all the monsters have the black taint in them, especially those in Edmund's employ. So he laced her vajayjay with black taint, and you stuck your dick in that for quite a while. So you've got the black taint now. And, Moradin looks upon you and goes, I will not... We actually pulled up deities and demigods to see Moradin's dogma. Says that he does not tolerate the taint of evil, which was hilarious because those exact words were exactly what it was. I will not tolerate the taint of evil. Wha-boom! And knocks him over the head with his double-headed axe, which is now sharp as an axe, and annihilates him on the spot. Annihilation does not mean that you die. It means that you're erased from existence. He got hit with a god weapon. And Jason, the Dwarven Defender, was no more. And the wizard kind of stands there. Neil, our wizard, stands there. He goes, now I'll never get to use the Rod of Wonder on him. And I go, shut up. Shut up. Do you want to get annihilated? And he goes, oh no, I guess not. So, thus was the death of Jason, Dwarven Defender, acquired the black taint from a succubus, tried to kill his party members again, and got annihilated for it. So his story ends there. And Moradin, after this massive rock-off concert goes on, decides to depart from the heavens. Good concert, Spoony. Here's 1,000 gold for being as awesome as all that, and for bringing some thrills to all these mortals here. And I will return to on high, from whence the gods came. And he takes off into the clouds. And the god of tricksters is standing there feeling like a bit of a sore loser because he just lost to Moradin in front of a big crowd of people. And he gets ready to leave too. But then I kind of took a leaf out of Jason's playbook, and he's annihilated. There's not even a body on the stage. And I go, wait, god of tricksters. And he goes, what? And he's like, I challenge you to a rock-off. And he goes, what? A mere mortal like you challenge me to a rock-off? And I go, I challenge you to a rock-off. So the ending scene from Tenacious D, we run through the whole thing. And he goes, what do you want if you win the rock-off? And I go, and I'm trying to think, like, we've got money, we've got magic items, what could I possibly, and Jason's like tapping me on the shoulder, bring me back to life, bring me back to life. I was like, no, you deserve that. He goes, what? And I go, you tried to get us killed. You've been PvPing us. You can go to hell. And I go, god of tricksters, if I win the rock-off, you must deliver the man in black armor that plagues me, Lieutenant Black. And, he looks at me with his godlike eyes to see who I'm talking about, like look through my thoughts and see who it is. And he goes, all right. But what if I win? And I look around the table like I've got to follow the movie because I know that's what my DM wants. And I'm trying to see who's paying the least bit of attention. And it turns out that Dylan, our paladin, is like writing notes on his character sheet. He's not actually paying attention to what we said. And I go, if we win, then you can have the paladin. And Dylan looks up and his face goes white as a sheet and he goes, what? And the god of tricksters goes, all right, it's on. And Dylan like leans over and goes, what did you do? What did you do? And I go, I just bet you in a rock-off. And he goes, no, you didn't. I'm not allowing this. I am a paladin of I think he just picked Palor. I'm a paladin of Palor. You cannot bet me unto another god. And he goes, oh, it's too late now. And it's like, if we lose 2 party members in one session, everybody's going to be pissed. So Spoony has challenged a god to a rock-off. And I go, guys, I just got like a 57 in the last one. So surely this can't go wrong. And, if we get Lieutenant Black, like, in our custody, it's going to be that much easier for us. So I have to bet something of equal value. So a life for a life. And so Spoony rolls for perform, and the god of tricksters rolls for perform. And if you know your god stats, if a god has to roll a d20, it's automatically counted as a 20. It's not automatically a success, but it's always a plus 20. And so Spoony's got like plus 27 to his roll, but he has to roll normally. And it ended up being like 45 to 47, and the god of tricksters won. And again, there's money and panties flying onto the stage while they play, Ride the Dragon and all kinds of other like super advanced like Guitar Hero songs is basically what we were picking. Let's Talk More Rock and Ride the Dragon. But and he goes, you've lost. You guys are freaking lame. Come on, Dylan, you're coming with me. And he reaches out to like grab the paladin by like the front of his shirt, and Dylan's like, no. And I go, wait, god of tricksters, I promised you a paladin, not that paladin. And he goes, what do you mean? And he like drops Dylan onto his butt. And I go, DM, I'm going to come up with the name of a fallen paladin from this city. And he goes, really? Yeah, and I go, yes, bardic knowledge. And he goes, really? And I go, yeah, For if there were a fallen paladin, even in a city this size, he would surely be the talk of rumor and the scorn of others and of his church, the scandal, etc., etc. Someone who has fallen from grace anyway. And he goes, all right, roll it. 20. So I feed the god of tricksters the name of a paladin who has fallen from grace for doing evil things, who happens to be in this city in another side of town. So the god of tricksters teleports away to grab this guy and then returns to the divine plane. And I'm like, oh. So, there was a difference of 2 at beating a god in a rock-off. And Dylan's like gritting his teeth and shaking his head at me like, you better not fucking bet me in any more rock-offs ever again. And I go, well, what are the chances that I actually get to challenge a third god to a rock-off? And Dylan just kind of comes over and he plucks the pick of destiny out of my loot, and he goes, I'm putting this in the vault. You can go to hell. And I'm like, well, that's that. How much gold did we make, DM? And he rolls, I think, 4 d10s to determine like thousands place, hundreds place, and on tens place, ones place. We ended up making like 8,000 gold and some change just thrown up on the stage, and people that are buying food and alcohol. I was like, okay, we split that, 6 ways. Oh, wait, no, 5 ways. We split that 5 ways, and we make sure that the tavern gets their 10%, etc., etc., for us pulling such a huge crowd, on top of whatever money they've made selling drinks and food and bar winches and stuff like that. And our DM goes, okay, the crowd starts to disperse, and the angels that were in the crowd start to return towards the heavens. And I go, oh, I forgot about the angels. Wait, angels. So while everybody else is cleaning up and stuff, Spoony goes to chat up the 2 angels that came from heaven to watch this rock concert between Spoony and Moradin and the god of tricksters. And this is the dumbest thing I've ever had to tell a story about. But I was like, I wonder. And the DM goes, you wonder what? And I go, well, my diplomacy's still pretty darn high. And he goes, don't you dare. And it goes, I dare. And I go, I seduce the angels. And I throw it. 19 plus all my diplomacy. And he goes, God damn it, Spoony. And everybody else around the table, one by one, God damn it, Spoony, you're going to hell in like 6 different religions. You're practically sprinting there. And I go, well, these bronze-skinned beauties will have to come with me. You are so incorrigible. And I go, yeah, but that's the life of a rock star. And he goes, shut up. And meanwhile, Dylan is putting the demon's tooth in the vault and shutting the door and turning the dial and vacuum sealing it and closing the panel and all that good stuff. So we've got the horn and we've got the tooth. And the tavern makes all the repairs it needs to since the brawl, with all the money that came pouring in. They get all new furniture, all new counters, all new uniforms for the people working there. They put flowers in flower pots. Like the Full Health Tavern gets a huge upgrade from just this massive inpouring of money. And Spoony, of course, takes the best suite for the evening to take his angel honeys with him. And if you have even an inkling of angel lore, you know that they're basically genderless. I think the best depiction of angels that I've ever seen in like movies and stuff probably would have been Keanu Reeves' movie Constantine, because Gabriel was played by a woman, but was fairly androgynous, just as far as like not a lot of chest, not a lot of muscle, but still like somewhere in that in between, like if you looked at her, you might have some trouble telling a gender. If you know, like I said, anything about Angel Lore, they don't have bits. They don't have breasts. They don't have nothing. But this is fantasy, so now they do. And our DM says, instead of pubic hair, they've got, white angel feathers down there. And I go, huh, I've never been with an angel before. And he goes, you're going to take a lot of feathers to the face if you do them doggy style. And I go, eh. He goes, fine. He's trying to discourage me, but Spoony's already caught them both. So he enjoys that for the evening. Not one, but 2 angels in his bed. And he goes, we've gone up from bar wenches and whores. Now we've got, divine, the agents of God are sucking my cock. And my party is like, you incorrigible bastard. And again, they kept saying, you're going to hell in like 6 different religions. And I go, yeah, kinda. So, I think that was pretty much where we ended out for that particular session. We got the demon's tooth and put it in the vault. Jason was not dead, annihilated. We challenged the gods to a rock-off. It was hard to cram too much more into that session. So I guess that is where we will leave it for now. Now that Edmund and Lieutenant Black are aware of our presence, things are about to get a lot nastier. So I hope you will join me next time on D&D Stories. Keep gaming.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like button for me. If you want to keep up with channel updates, check me out on Facebook. And if you're feeling especially generous, be sure to visit my Patreon. Keep gaming!